Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, yay, finally got her, Adeola Soul, founder of Strategy CRM. Adeola, thank you for finally connecting and, jetting in from London and agreeing to talk with me.
Thank you for having me. You're like the infamous doctor that goes all over the internet, all over different webinars and put in very,
Annoying
very, very
questions.
insightful, hard, hard to answer questions.
That's right. I think the place we first connected was one of your, awesome jobs hosting a webinar, and I was kibitzing on the side, dropping questions in
You
the
really were.
Q&A.
You were like a keypad warrior that a lot of questions. And I was just like, oh, I'm so glad I'm hosting and not having to answer these questions.
I think we had Skip Fedora, who was an earlier guest on this program, kind of tied in knots on one of those. It was pretty funny. So tell people a bit about you. I know a little bit about you, but tell people a little bit about you.
Oh, okay. So, hello everyone. I'm Adeola and I am a CRM consultant. Like Matthew said, I have my own little consultancy called Strategy CRM. I am a lover of all things email marketing and data. Probably got about 12 plus years experience in the game. I know I don't look it. But I do.
Gonna say,
And I live in London. What else can I say? Although it doesn't look like it right now, I definitely am heavily into beauty, hair, and makeup. And I think that's just one of the fun facts about me. Oh, and another fun fact about me is I love cartoons. Absolutely love cartoons. All I watch is cartoons. So, yes.
really? Like,
Yeah.
give me some examples.
Oh, do you know what? The thing is, the cartoons that I watch are
Are a little off color. I don't care. Um,
no Pokemon over here. But I guess one of the more, ones that you can watch with your kids is I like Dragon Ball Z.
mhm.
That one is one of my favorites. But if you don't want to watch with your kids, Vox Machina
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Amazon Prime is
yeah.
very good.
Okay.
It's a little naughty, but it's tongue in cheek, quite a fair bit of swearing, but very, very good. And then on Netflix, oh my gosh, Final Space, very good,
Yeah.
intergalactic kind of show, but very funny. And F is for Family, a bit more set in the 70s, a little bit crude, um, but again, a very, very good cartoon. Very good. So those are
The
just a few.
only one of the two people on this conversation remembers the 70s, but we'll leave that aside. Um, so animation, which is a very, very deep passion of mine. What's the boundary between animation and CGI? And now it looks like it's actually real. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? I feel like it's ever so close. Have you ever seen that movie Swan Song
No,
on Apple? Obviously, I watch a lot of stuff.
I'm writing it down.
Well, okay, write it down. It's actually a really good movie. So I won't give it away or spoil it, but essentially it's about this man who is terminally ill and he doesn't want his wife to go through any heartache because she had previously gone through some form of heartache and he just didn't want to put her through that again. So he kind of goes through this process of essentially I don't want to spoil it, but some technological advancements in order to maintain the balance whilst he is actually dying. And in that movie, there were so many, even though I know it was CGI, there was so many different concepts within that film that felt as though it could be everyday life. So, um, or driverless cars that you
Okay.
would
Yeah.
just kind of put your destination in,
Mhm.
and this like Tesla would arrive and kind of drive you wherever you need to go. Or there was this scene where he takes out his contact lenses and he just kind of puts them on his vanity unit and they kind of spray it and clean it. And even the same with his earpods, he just places them on this kind of magnetic thing, but you can't see it and it levitates and starts to charge. Um, and also just like his screen. So obviously Apple did some heavy placement in that movie. But it almost looked like the Minority Report. So he had like three, do you remember that movie?
Yeah,
He had
sure.
like three screens and he could flick from his phone onto the screens and do all sorts, have a call over here and kind of do some design over there. And I just felt like, I know that this isn't real, but it blended in so seamlessly that I just felt as though this could probably be us in the next 5 years. Like the way in which
Yeah.
animation and CGI is being portrayed in movies as though it's already a part of our lives. You instantly believe that this concept is real and almost maybe it's only available to the elite. Like, why don't I have this yet? But it's actually fabricated to some degree.
Yeah, or potentially to a complete degree. I got a video from someone the other day, and I believe it was an article about AI. But I because everyone's writing about AI, I watched the video and then I rewound and watched again. I said, you know what? I'm pretty sure the guy wrote the script and fed it into an AI that did the voiceover and the talking head person.
Really?
It was really good, but there were these subtle uh, mouth sync, emphasis thing, and breath pattern. It
Okay.
just wasn't quite human. It was like, nah, she hasn't blinked for 5 minutes. Right? Doesn't work. Hasn't taken a breath, still talking, and there was just enough repetition, and it was fantastic. This is something I'm interested in, so I caught it. But I think most people go, "Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, she did a nice job explaining that." And I don't think it was an actual person.
You don't,
I don't. I really don't.
because of the way she breathed
Yeah.
and lack of blinking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are some people that actually just don't, just not that they struggle to blink, but they actually can go some time without blinking.
Yeah.
But I do probably believe that it was a, kind of what's it called, a fabricated person or an AI kind of construct of a person, because you're seeing a lot of that now. Even there are some tech websites that will have a host,
Yeah. Yeah.
greet you,
Yeah.
and it seems as though it's a member of staff, but actually it's not. And you can tell, like you said, there's certain facial
Little
expressions,
things.
yeah, that we wouldn't naturally make as humans. I think usually as humans, we're always looking away at something. If we're thinking or trying to remember
Yes. Yes.
something, look
Yes.
away or look up. And that's
Yes.
just a
Yes.
natural cue of thinking.
Yes.
Whereas, yes, if someone has been programmed their speech,
Yes.
they're just recounting what's been programmed into them. So there isn't that natural human instinct to
You,
review looking
you're
away.
right. In fact, I'm doing this from recall, but I think that talking head in that video was like full frontal eye contact the whole time. Like,
You're looking at me, I'm looking at you.
no, I don't think so. I don't think you can get away with that. I mean, neither of us have been like in the camera the
Yeah,
whole
it's
time.
zoned in.
Yeah, and yeah. But we're early days. This is going to keep evolving, and Swan Song, as you're citing, like the boundary between the real and the real and the artificial is getting squishier and
Yeah.
squishier. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's scary. It's getting to the point where I am nice to Siri, and
Oh no,
no, because
no! Be
I am
it's much more
no,
entertaining.
no, I'm so afraid. Every single time I ask for a request, I always say thank you, and even when he doesn't like respond when I say, the command, usually before I would like curse, like so. But after watching all these movies, I'm now like, I'm just going to be nice to him, because when the time comes and he becomes sentient,
Yes,
what
you want some payback, right? Oh, you were nice to me.
I need him to look after me. No, yeah, other Android friends to leave me alone. I was one of the nice humans. Well, hopefully I'm dead before that time happens.
Okay, I'm in serious trouble there.
You have to be nice.
Yeah, no. Be nice to your
It's sad,
technology.
it's getting squishier.
Just
You just don't know what the capabilities of technology is, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, if you watch that movie Swan Song, I
I
have
will.
a you will probably say some of those elements within the movie will probably realized in our future, probably in the next decade.
I mean, yeah, it's all happening fast, but keep in mind that what we call technology now will eventually become invisible and we'll hang that label on something else. Like
True.
it's just like the nature of change. I would argue a lot of people don't think of the internet per se as technology anymore. It's just kind of it's
Absolutely.
there, it's ubiquitous, it's like oxygen. Wow.
No, absolutely. And even down to the way in which AI is used within your day to day, even, down to Amazon Prime or, ordering Ubers,
Yeah.
it's already been woven into society on a very, what's it called? You're the man of many words, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's
Yeah.
woven into a point
Ubiquitous.
where we coexist with it without actually realizing that we're using a smart piece of technology to make our everyday
What
lives.
watch this. My hand is not gonna leave my sleeve, but watch this segue. It's kinda like email, which
Ooh.
which seemed high tech at a point in the past. Oh my god, someone can actually send me a message.
Yeah.
And if you're early enough, you had AOL going, "You've got mail," and it was kind of exciting. And then it started getting annoying, and now it's kind of like wallpaper, and you don't think about it. And if you're in the email space, as you are, as I am,
Mhm.
when you tell the man on the street, "Oh, I'm blah blah blah," email, they're like, "Email's gonna die. Email's gonna go away." Like, no, it's not. It's actually more complicated than you think it is, but it looks like it just happens, doesn't it?
No, 100%. And I think I wish there was more of branding or advertising around email because when you go and speak to the average person on the street, and I don't even tell them I work in email anymore. I lie and say that I'm a data and strategic consultant
Yes.
because
Yes.
just because it's what I do. But when I say email, I immediately get blamed for spam. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't spam you. That's not what we do.
Right.
We're leveraging customer insights. We're leveraging so many different tech stacks. We're doing some very complicated things to essentially generate revenue. But to say that in a elevator pitch is so much more harder. So the term data strategic consultant is just so much more easier to for them to kind of land. And then I can mix in all the different layers of what I do in regards to data and how I kind of disseminate that out via email marketing. But you're absolutely right. Email back in the day was a smart new piece of tech. And now it's become the norm, just like receiving a text message. It's almost anticipated.
Norm. Yeah.
You're not sending an email. It's almost like you can't be trusted as a vendor, as a retailer. It is expected of you to have an email platform or to at least have an email communication channel. So you're absolutely right. And I constantly wonder, or not constantly, that's such a lie, but I do wonder about how email is going to evolve with this new generation, these new adopters
Yeah. What do you
of
think? I mean, you're we're at least 3 years apart in age, and, it's like
obviously.
you're gonna have a different perspective,
Yeah.
and you've got a foot in email, but you've also got got a foot in being, you know, younger. So how do you think it's gonna evolve? Thought leader time, girl.
Get my thought leader cap on. Okay, so do you know what? I genuinely believe that email is going to be integrated into social. I have a feeling I feel as though
Mm.
email will be used to leverage social platforms as well as being an independent platform within itself. So when you look at let's say what it's not so big in the UK, but WhatsApp messaging is huge in the UAE, it's huge in APAC.
Yes, yes.
And it's the norm. And I believe that email will be used to kind of circumvent the information that comes out of those WhatsApp conversations, or at least kind of extend and continue the process from one of these social, web chats into the email realm. So if someone's had a complaint about something they've bought and they're going through WhatsApp to kind of, have some form of resolution,
Mm.
I believe then the next step is email will then come in, and perhaps there'll be some recommendations or, another way to incentivize that customer, especially if they've had a bad experience. So it's not necessarily just going to be a channel that kind of works independently on its own. It's going to be interconnected into some of these different social channels to either leverage the customer experience or to enhance the way in which someone buys, especially if people are, especially in Dubai, they send lots of promotional content via website,
Well,
WhatsApp and SMS. TikTok, very interestingly, it's go it's going through its issues right now in US Congress. Yeah, so China thinks it's xenophobia, but if it gets banned in the US, that's quite a big deal because I think when I was
what a big
watching
deal.
the hearing, over about 150 million users of TikTok in the US, and
Yeah. Yeah.
listening to the amount of the way in which the algorithm is so smart and its objective is to keep users on the app for on average 16 minutes because that's how they generate their revenue from ad sales. Again, I mean, if it's not banned in the US, but with other markets anyway, I think there will be ways in which email will be used as a channel to probably leverage that value proposition. So, we've captured their email address from their sign up, to use the app, and we're serving them ad content. We know what they're buying. We know what they like. We know what they're interested in. So we
Mhm.
can now use email to further instigate that intent to drive that, that overall sale. So I believe that there is room for email to evolve and become a lot more of an integral part in social. Whether you agree or disagree, I can see
I,
you look
yeah, there's a lot to
unpacked.
unpack there. Let's take some of the pieces apart for a second. One of the things that I think shapes the uh, digital landscape and where email fits in it is some fairly accidental evolution of technology things. If you look at the numbers in the U.S., email is like still the dominant uh, dominant channel, like just by message volume, by gigs, by whatever. It's like Salesforce issued their eighth, I think, marketing landscape report a couple of days ago, and I went and grabbed it, started reading it, and of course, 5 minutes later, someone from Salesforce calls me because they're really good at that. But leave that aside. 80%, over 80% of the message volume in their study, email. Not all the other channels, email. And
But
in the
right.
US, there is no dominant app. You mentioned
Oh,
WhatsApp. There's not. You mentioned WhatsApp, not used here,
I know.
and
I
nothing
figured that
dominates.
out recently, which I was just like,
It's
why?
really different.
Because you guys rely so much heavily on iOS, on
Yeah. Yeah.
iMessage.
Well, yes and not. Um, so SMS, you know where SMS came from?
Are you
So
gonna say Texas?
what's that?
Are you gonna say Texas?
No, no, no. When when the first cellular phones were designed, there was kind of a bootstrap problem of you want someone to be able to talk on this radio channel, essentially, but you also need the device to be able to say, "Hi, I'm legitimate." So there was actually a separate frequency and a separate channel allocated to those back and forth control conversations between the tower and the phone. Okay.
Oh,
Didn't take much. And it was actually little tiny messages like, "Hi, I'm telephone number such and such. Okay, you're legit. You can use my tower and talk," right? And someone went, "Wait a minute. We could actually use that to transmit messages back and forth to each other." They kind of hijacked the control channel, short message service,
mm,
SMS. So it was this accident of the evolution of the cell phone. We kind of never got past that in the US and had an OTA, over the top app like WhatsApp or WeChat or something like that take
right.
off. So in the US, at least interpersonally, it's going to be Apple Messages with your Apple friends. and fall back to nasty green bubble Android messages
Wow.
with
Yeah.
your Android friends. And like that's the landscape as it stands right now.
Wow.
Like that's the landscape as it stands. And Google is making a concerted push to embarrass Apple in public. Oh, you guys are holding everybody back. You need to jump on the RCS train. And Apple's going, yeah, I don't think so. Tim Cook said, buy your mom an iPhone. Like, don't bother me. Right? So the key point, sort of social level point is, at least in this market, this being US, because that's where I'm sitting,
It won't.
you
It
you
may
don't
not be
go,
that.
oh, well, we can expect our new consumer subscriber, whatever, to also use the channel X, whatever it is. There is no channel X, right?
Mm,
Email, you expect it. It's your digital home address. SMS, maybe, but who in the Sam hell wants SMS messages from merchants? I've got two of them just for a science experiment, and God, they're annoying. Um, and that's it, right?
right.
Whereas
Okay.
a richer channel, a WhatsApp, a WeChat, or something like that, with more mechanisms to make it interactive, measurable, metrics driven, blah 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 blah. Since there's
Yeah.
not a de facto standard here,
Mhm.
there's nowhere to go right now.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. And I definitely would say that although you guys don't have a dominant channel or a dominant app at the moment, it doesn't mean that in the future that won't be the case. And nothing will supersede. So even with the social apps, so maybe WhatsApp, WeChat, the rest of it may not be on it, but those online sharing platforms such as TikTok, providing TikTok doesn't get banned, but those ones, there may be an adoption there in terms of email being able to segue in. It might have a different purpose, but I still
Right.
believe that
Right.
there will be a tandem where it will go hand in hand because
Oh
I
yeah,
think
no, I agree about the hand in hand, and I mean that's for the more fragmented channels that we've got. Messages, Android Messenger, SMS, NES, Facebook Messenger, and others. Like they do coexist with email here. I guess the point in terms of like commercial use of those is you can't safely assume that there's a good alternative to email, except maybe SMS, and people are very reluctant to give that out. So
yeah.
you kind of stick with it. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, UK market, could you safely assume that your consumer is also a WhatsApp user?
A majority of us are WhatsApp.
Majority. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
WhatsApp here is big.
Yeah, I know. I knew that. Yeah.
I remember speaking to my friend from the US and she was like, "Oh, do you have WhatsApp?" And she was like, "Of course you guys do. That's all you use. And we don't use it here. I have to download it just to talk to you because,
Right.
and it's like,
Right.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm such an inconvenience. But the- in my homeland, everyone has it.
Well, I mean, arguably you've jumped ahead where we US market a bit prisoner of that mobile cold war thing, the Android iPhone thing, and iPhone statistically quite dominant,
Mhm.
particularly in the US market.
Yeah, no. And
Huh.
so like circling back, I definitely feel as though email, even within the younger generation. So I would love to start seeing reports in regards to how Gen Z and whichever generation
Yeah,
comes after them, their actual thoughts on emails. I feel that there have been some chatter in regards to they feel as though they receive too many emails, or perhaps they
sure.
don't like to surrender their email address. However, they're really happy to surrender it to download a new or tool, and expect an email to confirm,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
their practice or their action, et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So although the sentiment might be, we don't like emails, emails is old school, they still have a preconditioned, pre-programmed expectance of email to play a very vital part in their entire
Yeah.
journey with whatever app, tool, or whatever they're using, which is why I do believe that email's relationship as the years go on will evolve somewhat, not just being a push channel that sends someone to a website, but an actual leveraged part of the customer journey where it's working side by side or in unison with whatever you find your subscribers on. So it's
Yep.
it's it's going to have a full circle role where it might have an independent side, but then
Mm.
there's always also the strategy that will be linked onto the application within itself. So a social
Th-
media person won't just sit on the other side of the room doing their social stuff. They will have
Yeah.
to talk
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a commercial and standards aspect to this that matters tremendously. Email is not owned by anybody.
Yeah,
That's a big deal. There's no gatekeeper. There's no policy setter. No one can say, I mean, yes, you can get banned. Deliverability. Sorry about the noise in the background there. Deliverability, self-regulation of the email space. Like you can get whacked pretty hard if you misbehave, but that's not the same thing as paying a toll just to play. Right.
true.
Right. Good behavior lets you keep sending. Bad behavior might justifiably interfere with your sending, but assuming good behavior, no one gets to set an arbitrary rate and say, oh, it's now going to cost you 10 times as much to email these people because
Very
I said
true.
so. Right. And they can't take away your list.
Very true. Because it's owned data, which
Big difference. Big deal. Big difference. Yeah.
yeah,
And
which is
I don't know how that plays in WhatsApp. Your WhatsApp ID is your phone number?
yes.
Okay. Interesting.
But I think in some cases, they also take your email address as well.
Oh, I would think. Yeah. Yeah.
So it all ties back, it all links back. So I think there's definitely ways and come on. Uh I'm sure very soon Meta will own some of these ESPs as a secret hybrid conglomerate.
You,
Where
do you know about Facebook?
oh,
Back when they were called Facebook, do you remember when they tried to kill off email?
I do.
Yeah. Let's try.
I do, but you never know. I mean, this is what I mean. The future of technology and how things are evolving. Not necessarily, I mean, I say that as a joke. I don't believe that they're going to buy off all the ESPs, but there may be a way in which they would like to be competitive and perhaps leverage the assets that they have and create their own messaging stream, where someone can use WhatsApp in tandem with leveraging and it's just like how Braze, you can have SMS, web push, you can use different web content cards, you can have in-app messaging, you then also have email. What's to say that that might not come later on with Meta?
Okay, so let's get down in the weeds. This is like for the email enthusiasts, two of us here at least talking about it. There's one company in a position to do exactly what you described. Google,
Don't know the answer. Sorry, I've lost the
Google,
plot.
Google.
Okay, yes.
66, give or take, percent of inboxes are Gmail inboxes. And that's a mighty big footprint.
Very.
And having worked at a monopoly, I'm always wary of monopolies. Like, ooh, I hate it when someone takes over a channel. But here's the topic for conversation. I surfaced this when we were grappling with the impact of MPP in the last year or so. 66% of the inboxes, Google. Almost 60% of the email clients, Apple.
Yes.
Cold War.
Yes.
Very different stances on privacy, security,
Yes.
interoperability, like keep
Yes.
ticking down the list. And I don't think that those numbers are likely to to shift into some sort of new settlement anytime soon because the habitual device so many people have in their pocket from Apple. Oh, it's my iPhone. I use my iPhone.
Yes.
Isn't going to
But
go away.
no. But I think the relationship that people have with Apple is very different to that of Google. People have a more, what's the word? a more integrated relationship with Google without actually realizing that it's as integrated as it is. So I forget sometimes that Chrome is Google and I
Yeah.
use Chrome
Yeah.
religiously.
Yeah.
Um, that I understand that my Gmail is Google, but at times I forget. And it's just Gmail, forgetting that it actually stands for Google Maps. And then when we're looking at directions for wherever we need to go, when you search, it's Google.
Yeah.
The maps, I prefer using Google Maps, and I forget that
Me
you
too.
know, is and it's called G Maps or something like that. So it's so much more embedded in our everyday life. Whereas Apple, no one I mean, I don't know the numbers, so I am assuming here, but Safari, I mean, I have it on my Mac. I never use it. I would never use it.
What kind of mobile device do you use?
I've got Apple,
Yep, me too.
obviously.
Me too. Me too. Well, yeah, me too. I would expect someone with your fantastic style to have an Apple device.
Obviously, it's just aesthetically pleasing, you know, it looks
Obviously.
good when I'm
So
taking my selfies.
here's the
But it's
punchline. Here's the punchline question. Who has the most fundamental control of your digital life, Google or Apple?
ooh, I guess Apple, because a lot of it
I'd agree. I'd
happens
agree.
on the phone and on the Mac. So I guess you would have to convert,
Yeah, I mean,
which
and a lot of this, it seems like inside baseball, but um, defaults and habits are kind of in the digital world what right of way was in the physical world. Once you get the right of way for a railroad through here or a road through there, it's very hard to take it away. Once you get 60% of the people on the planet using your built-in inbox client to access their email, it's very hard to get
yeah,
them to change that habit because they're like, I don't want to, and why, and no good reason, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera. And we do have this funny interlock of those two companies. Yeah, I'll give you a third company just as an example for this discussion. I would argue that one of the reasons that Facebook lost the game on on a large historical arc basis is they never got fundamental platform control. Google and Apple have fundamental platform control, right? The thing in my
mm,
pocket is one of those two.
yes,
The thing on my desk is Apple or Microsoft, but probably I use a Google app called a browser most of the time,
yeah,
right? Tell me where Facebook sits. They're like a couple layers up on that cake,
yeah. They're
and
not a part of your everyday.
they don't have fundamental control. When Apple introduced app tracking transparency requirements a year and a half ago, they blew up like a $14 billion hole in the side of the Facebook boat. And you know what Facebook could do about it? Zero, nothing. And most of us were applauding. Like, I don't want to be tracked once it's positioned that way. Thank you, Apple. I didn't want to be tracked. Thank you for giving me the pop up and the permission thing. It's like, boom, big hole in the side of the Facebook boat. Schadenfreude for me. I'm glad to see that because I like open standards, but no fundamental control. Ultimately, the other he's in better shape. He's got the landscape, if you will. He's got the right of way, if you will.
Yes, but in saying that, yes, and I guess if the goal is to kind of become, I would say, almost like a a monopoly or a conglomerate within itself, then yes, that is an issue. But data, data, Facebook still does have a lot of insights
Big
that
footprint. Yeah.
probably Apple and even Google. I mean, Google have your search history, but I think
I
and
agree.
some, but Meta or Facebook or whatever have a deeper insight into the individuals. And I think there also comes that leverage. So even though I guess GDPR and in terms of some legalities, you're not supposed to weaponize that information, but let's be honest, we
Yeah.
know it's being weaponized in some shape or form. It's happening. So yes, they are a lot more higher up, but they still have a good wealth of control and
Totally.
power
Yeah.
in regards to giving insights to these two companies as to
Yeah.
what people are doing, right?
Yeah.
How, where, when, um, even down to how much we earn.
pivot, but related. I would argue that in the last couple of months, we've watched the next platform explode into life. And I'm talking specifically about OpenAI with ChatGPT as its Sputnik moment.
Yeah.
You played with this much yet?
I've played with it a little bit. Um, a little bit. I feel like it's just exploded in the last couple months. It's weird. And like
Yeah.
perhaps it has been around for a while, but all of a sudden there's this
Yeah.
big chatter. Yeah, out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
Well, up to 100 million users in something like 6 weeks.
This,
That's
yeah,
never happened.
it's crazy. But people are using it to do things such as write haikus, you know, uh, conversation starters. I want to start a webinar. What's a great intro? You know, very, I guess, simple tasks.
Mundane.
Yes. Create a subject for me, or what would be the best copy to send to this email to these types of people. You know, so I haven't really seen anyone do some fantastic things. I feel like who wrote an article? There was
Everybody.
yes,
Everybody.
right. So only influencers, they kind of shared an I can't remember, was it not on this? Anyways, I'll have to find it, but they wrote an article in terms of the best ways to use, you know, ChatGPT as an email marketer. And, you know, it was enhanced subject lines and enhanced send time optimization. And that was the one that stuck out to me. And I thought, how does AI do a better job than your ESP does that has been amassing this data on your subscribers over a certain period of time where they're able to, I guess not accurately, but at least confidently predict the best time for each individual person on your database. Why why move away from that to an external tool where your
Can I,
ESP essentially
can
does
I,
the same?
can I give you an example?
Go
Just for
ahead,
reaction?
please.
Yesterday, literally yesterday, one of the things on my to-do list was to get a batch of sample data. We'd captured, I'll spare you the whys and hows. We'd captured a bunch of data that's going to go to a CDP for part
Mhm.
of a pilot project. And, talking like 3 million rows of data.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, oh, crikey, how do I isolate down, the 9 things that I want feel, in each row to send to this guy? Like really, really tricky SQL query.
Mm.
Um, and I went, huh. So open up the standing chat GPT window that I've got right there. And I said, hey, Skippy the robot, how would, assuming a database with this and this, how would I query to get Bing, Bing, and Bing out of it? Oh, here you go. Here's the SQL query. Okay, that's good. But what if I also want to do this? Oh, no problem. Here's the modified SQL query. Skippy was very polite and kept modifying the syntax and let me go, yeah, but what if I also wanted to add that? And it remembered the context. Here's my point. I was typing one, maybe 2 sentence, very short English prompts, and I end up with a query for, in this case, BigQuery, which is Google's data warehouse. I seriously bet it saved me 3 or 4 hours of working on that. And I mean, that's a sophisticated operation, but here I am riffing in English about what I want. And I mean, well phrased enough to try to, to give
A good
Skippy
enough
the logic
one.
to hang on to. But the fact that AI came back, that particular AI came back with, I copied and pasted the query. Oh, that worked. Holy crap. And it saved me a ton of time. And my
Yeah.
point there is one, that the use I put it to in that particular case wasn't what I think of as rich human stuff like great subject line or good copy. It was pain in the ass digital stuff like, how do I get this database to spit out these rows?
But that's the thing. I think it's the use case. And I believe that people, not everyone, but I believe that some people don't really know or haven't yet explored the depth as to which it can go. So they're still using it on the surface level. And
Yes,
that's
very
what I'm
much.
seeing a
Yeah.
lot of. So
Yeah.
even with that article, it was very surface
Very
level
surface.
stuff,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
stuff that we do in our everyday,
Yeah.
but oh, just get this piece of AI to just do it for you. So it doesn't feel as though there's a good enough incentive to even utilize it. But if you're looking at big query data like this, and if there are good examples and is able to effectively, which we know it would do anyway, but effectively help you solve that problem,
Mhm.
then yes. I think if that article focused on queries, data questions rather than top level content. What should I write for someone who is lapsing? What should I, because we have copywriters for all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you wanted to save time, okay, great, fine. But that's where the goodness comes from when you're having great use cases like that. So Matthew, maybe there's an article if you haven't done one already. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I archived this, shared it with a couple of friends because I was just jarred by it. But take that example and go back to what you mentioned, the ESP, which made me think of it. I wouldn't be surprised if a year, 2 years from now, someone sits down, a marketer sits down and says, "Who are my most profitable customers?" And doesn't have to fart around with Excel, bust their brain on SQL queries, or any of that stuff.
but that already exists.
Yes. How?
So there's a company called Iota, and they're new. They're about 2 years old, and they've essentially created a machine learning kind of
And
like data ingestion
yeah.
tool
Yeah.
that, and it came from, I actually know the guy, his name's John Conway, and we worked together when we were consulting at Eurostar, and he is just one of those like, really geeky, really geeky data, like just data, just lives and breathes data, but also understands data from a marketer's perspective.
Nice.
So he can communicate in our language essentially. And he came across quite a few marketers or CRM managers that would always want to target the very finite group of people that you don't necessarily have the insights on your customers on. You wouldn't necessarily have fields on this person loves baguettes or this person loves to travel at 9 p.m., et cetera, et cetera. So he developed this tool that essentially allows you to create microsegments, based on someone's behaviors, someone's inclinations, taking into account the things that they look at, what did they do? And it has this kind of predictive modeling kind of sense to it as well, where it can also kind of predict there are people within your database that don't necessarily fit it to an exact, but they could potentially become that person, so they have the inclination or the intent is there for them to become that. So in some way, shape or form, it's happening. There's like an answer
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
marketers' request to do that type of segmentation. And it's only a matter of time before those ESPs, are we allowed to name drop in there? I'm just like talking. Is this
So
supposed to
then
be?
you, yeah.
Because like I went to a conference at the beginning of this year and it was Movable Ink, and they had released a new, I feel like it's called Einstein or one of the, one
Yeah.
of those.
They did about a 12, $14 million acquisition of an AI company. And that's the new banner.
And it was, the presentation was like, we know your customers better than you do. And we can, send them to different pages that they never would have thought to go on, but we know that they'll convert and blah, blah, blah. And, it continually learns your subscriber. And I was like, oh, this is cool, but really scary, that they have a piece of tech that is learning my behavior. So even if I say I like one thing, it's studying me and saying, no, you don't like this. You like bats. And, taking you off to a different place entirely. So it's on its way. It's here. It's not loud and in your face, but it is here.
Yeah. The Chat GPT Sputnik moment for AI finally put a human looking face on something that's already been happening. for years. Right,
Yes.
right. It's the when you when you type in a search and it starts finishing the sentence for you or the words for you, that's an AI algorithm broadly speaking, machine learning algorithm broadly speaking. You touched on something that I think might make a kind of a rich and interesting closure and give people a sense for your strategic thinking, which I've always found awesome. Machine studying us, knowing us better than ourselves, has a real conflict with our desire for privacy and control over that, doesn't it?
Hmm.
What do you think?
A bit old school here, but it's only an issue if they know it's happening. So I think people complain, rightly so, in regards to this type of machine learning studying you, your habits, your behaviors, what you're doing. When it's said out loud in that way, yes, it
Yeah,
seems invasive, but when it's packaged in a sense that in a way that it can help alleviate day-to-day issues or help you get to something faster. No one complains when they're using a search engine to find a flight and it's having all of these different recommendations that are powered based on your last search, et cetera, et cetera. Like
right,
all of these
right. Good
things
point.
that make your life easier that you expect it to do. You don't have
Yeah,
an issue there because it's been packaged as a helpful tool.
yeah.
So yes, there is this loggerhead, but only when it is been presented as a enemy to your life rather than an enhancement or a help, almost like a personal butler um, to your life. And I think when it's packaged in that way, I know it's so like criminal, but when it's packaged in a way in the sense that it can help enhance your day to day or enhance what it is that you need to do, then it works in unison with the user, right? There isn't an issue. It's only when there are such things like breaches, when you can't confidently ensure, your end user that they are going to be protected.
Mm.
That's when you can encounter
O-
pushback.
or when the label is already set and you're trying to unmake. And I have a specific example there in mind. When Apple announced mail privacy protection and hung privacy and spy pixel on something that could be and frequently or mostly was used in a beneficial way within email.
Hmm.
I hate to say it, but game over. Game over in terms of control of the label and
Yeah.
game over in terms of the thing we talked about earlier, like who's got the fundamental control over the device in your pocket. It's like, and I was like, oh, you
Yeah.
stinkers, right?
Yeah. You're
You
absolutely
stinkers.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's and that's what I'm saying. When something is labeled as an enemy,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to then
Undo. Yeah.
and but when it's packaged, so when that MPP came into play, there were loads of articles in regards to, okay, this is the type of things that it's going to affect from a campaign level. So things like countdown timers. Actually, a customer would probably look back on an email just to see how much longer they have before they can use this, promotion or whatever. But now that they can't do that because it
Now they
clashes at
can't do
the
that.
point
Yep.
of
Yep.
open,
Oh yeah.
and that's because you,
You just described the year of my life dealing with that particular impact. Yeah, you're right. And I would hang that one back on the email marketers of the world who made pretty paltry, poor use of real time content. If the best we could do is pixels and countdown timers, we kind of deserved to get
lose
kneecapped
it.
there, right? And it's done, right? It's done. There's some interesting positive things that Apple opened up with MPP that I don't know if they realize, but we'll get to that in our next conversation, maybe.
Yeah. So, season two. It's
So, aside from the fact that you've got maybe my favorite name in the world,
oh,
Adeola. I love that. Where next for you?
oh, good
Hmm.
question.
Hopefully,
So,
we see you speaking more.
well, I definitely want to do. I will be speaking when. I know I have something coming up,
You got
but
something coming up, I know.
I'll be speaking with I think Salesy next month, just talking about some of the email trends and how to
Yeah,
apply them within your email marketing strategy. Be writing a few articles here and there. But
excellent.
yes, if anybody needs some help, developing a strategy or just wants to talk and say hi, I'm here. I'm doing a lot, but at the moment I'm kind of just trying to realign with some clients,
Yep,
help them get above the line. Q1 has kind of come and gone very quickly, and people are
right.
trying to reaudit and re-strategize how they can kind of better improve for the rest of the year. So
So
I'll be
where does
doing a lot.
someone go if they say, I want to talk to her? Where do they go find you on the interwebs?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Adeola Soul, or you can find me on my website, which is strategycrm.co.uk. So
.co.uk.
that's where I am. And you'll see my big, beautiful, made up face on the homepage.
Well, we should wrap, Adeola, but thank you so much. I know it was going to be a fun conversation.
This was fantastic. Thank you. I enjoyed it. And you know what? You definitely should just tell the truth and tell people that you're Matthew McConaughey's brother. I think,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
This is like the third person who said that.
hiding is not gonna do you any favors because we all know it. So just announce it. Announce it
We overlapped actually. He was at UT in the film school when I was doing my MFA in drama there. True
because
story.
you're brothers. That's I don't know why you're trying to spin it as a coincidental story. It's your brothers.
Two brothers named Matthew. I like it. All right, cool. My guest has been Adeola Soul. Adeola, thank you so much. We're
Thank
out.
thank you for having me.